My dear, great, and powerful Lord Shiva, you were created first from the mouth of Lord Brahma. In order to protect the Brahmanas in pursuing education, austerities, vows, and self realization. As protector of the Brahmanas, you always protect the regulative principles they follow. Just as a cowherd boy keeps a stick in his hand to give protection to the cows. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The specific function of a human being in society, irrespective of his social status, is to practice control of the mind and senses by observing the regulative principles enjoined in Vedic Shastras. Lord Shiva is called Pasupati because he protects the living entities in their developed consciousness so that they may follow the Vedic system of Varna and Ashrama. The word Pasu refers to the animal as well as to the human entity. It is stated here that Lord Shiva is always interested in protecting the animals and the animalistic living entities who are not advanced in the spiritual sense. It is also stated that the Brahmanas are produced from the mouth of the Supreme Lord. We should always remember that Lord Shiva is being addressed as the representative of the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. In Vedic literature, it is described that Brahmanas are born from the mouth of the universal form of Vishnu. The Kshatriyas are born from his arms, the Vaishyas from his abdomen or waist, and the Sudras from his legs. In the formation of a body, the head is the principal factor. The Brahmanas are born from the mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In order to accept charity for worship of Vishnu and to spread Vedic knowledge. Lord Shiva is known as Pasupati, the protector of the Brahmanas and other living entities. He protects them from attacks of non-Brahmanas or uncultured persons who are against self-realization, the self-realization process. Another feature of this word is that the persons who are simply attached to the ritualistic portion of the Vedas and do not understand the situation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are not any more advanced than animals. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is confirmed that even though one performs rituals of the Vedas, if he does not develop a sense of Krishna consciousness, then all his labor is performing Vedic Vedic rituals is considered to be simply waste of time. Lord Shiva's aim in destroying the Daksha Yajna was to punish Daksha because by neglecting him, meaning Lord Shiva, Daksha was committing a great offense. Lord Shiva's punishment was just like that of a cowherd boy who keeps a stick to frighten his animals. It is commonly said that to give protection to animals, a stick is needed because animals cannot reason and argue. Their reasoning and argument is argumentum ad baculum. That's his uh, statement in uh, Latin language. It means that your discussion is based on having a stick to beat the person that's not behaving. Argumentum ad baculum.
Threat of force to make a conclusion.
All right. Unless there is a rod, they do not obey. Force is required for the animalistic class of men, whereas those who are advanced are convinced by reasons, arguments, and scriptural authority. Persons who are simply attached to Vedic rituals without further advancement of devotional service or Krishna consciousness are almost like animals. And Lord Shiva is in charge of giving them protection and sometimes punishing them as he punished Daksha. So Lord Shiva is very merciful and he has different types of devotees. Some of his devotees are demons. Some are pure devotees. Some are just regular devotees. Okay, text 15. I did not know your full glories. For this reason, I threw arrows of sharp words at you in the open assembly, although you did not take them into account. I was going down to hell because of my disobedience to you, who are the most respectable personality. But you took compassion upon me and saved me by awarding punishment. I like that. Save me by awarding punishment. I request that you be pleased by your own mercy, since I cannot satisfy you by my words. Okay, so as usual, a devotee in an adverse condition of life accepts such a condition to be the mercy of the Lord. Factually, the insulting words used by Daksha against Lord Shiva were enough to have him thrown perpetually into a hellish life. But Lord Shiva, being kind toward him, awarded him punishment to neutralize the offense. King Daksha realized this and, feeling obliged for Lord Shiva's magnanimous behavior, wanted to show his gratitude. Well, what was the magnanimous behavior? He cut off Daksha's head and put the head of a was it donkey or
Goat.
Yeah, goat. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not him, right? Like his, but I mean, in a way, he cut off with Veerabhadra, the person that he sent, cut off, and then he comes back and then connects goat.
Okay. Feeling obliged for Lord Shiva's magnanimous behavior, he wanted to show his gratitude. Sometimes a father punishes his child, and when the child is grown up and comes to his senses, he understands that the father's punishment was not actually punishment, but mercy. Similarly, Daksha appreciated that the punishment offered to him by Lord Shiva was a manifestation of Lord Shiva's mercy. That is the symptom of a person making progress in the path of Krishna consciousness.
Mhm.
It is said that a devotee in Krishna consciousness never takes any miserable condition of life to be condemnation by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He accepts the miserable condition to be the grace of the Lord. He thinks, I would have been punished or put into more dangerous conditions of life due to my past misdeeds. But the Lord has protected me. Thus, I have received only a little punishment as token execution of the law of karma. Thinking of his grace in that way, the devotee always surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead more and more seriously and is not disturbed by such so-called punishment. That's a very significant statement.
Mhm.
This is the behavior of a real devotee. And why are we reading this Shastra? We should understand what is bona fide devotional service, not a bunch of junk speculation, but bona fide devotional service. And now we're learning what it means to be a bona fide devotee engaged in bona fide devotional service. And one aspect is that the devotee is not disturbed by so-called punishment because the devotee is always surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, text 16. The great sage Maitreya said, thus being pardoned by Lord Shiva, King Daksha, with the permission of Lord Brahma, again began the performance of the yajna, along with the great learned sages, the priests, and others. Thereafter, at text 17, thereafter, in order to resume the activities of the sacrifice, the Brahmanas first arranged to purify the sacrificial arena of the contamination caused by the touch of Virabhadra and the other ghostly followers of Lord Shiva. Then they arranged to offer into the fire the oblations known as Purodasa. Lord Shiva, purport by Srila Prabhupada, Lord Shiva's followers and devotees headed by Virabhadra are known as Viras, and they are ghostly demons. Not only did they pollute the entire sacrificial arena by their very presence, but they disturbed the whole situation by passing stool and urine. Therefore, the infection they created was to be first purified by the method of offering Purodasa oblations. Very interesting. A Vishnu yajna is an offering to Lord Vishnu. Cannot be performed uncleanly. To offer anything in an unclean state is called Seva Parada.
Siva Parad.
Yeah, Seva Parada. The worship of the Vishnu deity in the temple is also Vishnu Yajna, and in all Vishnu temples, therefore, the priest who takes care of the Archana Vidhi must be very clean. Everything should be always kept neat and clean, and the foodstuffs should be prepared in a neat and clean manner. All these regulative principles are described in the Nectar of Devotion. There are 32 kinds of offenses in discharging archana service. It is required, therefore, that one be extremely careful not to be unclean. Generally, whenever any ritualistic ceremony is begun, the holy name of the Lord Vishnu is first chanted in order to purify the situation. Whether one is in a pure or impure condition, internally or externally, if one chants or even remembers the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, one immediately becomes purified. The yajna arena was desecrated by the presence of Lord Shiva's followers, headed by Virabhadra, and therefore the entire arena had to be sanctified. Although Lord Shiva was present and he is all auspicious, it was still necessary to sanctify the place because his followers had broken into the arena and committed so many obnoxious acts. That sanctification was possible only by chanting the holy name of Vishnu, Tri Kapala, which can sanctify the three worlds. In other words, it is admitted herein that the followers of Lord Shiva are generally unclean. They are not even very hygienic. They do not take baths regularly. They wear long hair and they smoke ganja. Persons of such irregular habits are counted amongst the ghosts. Since they were present in the sacrificial arena, the atmosphere became polluted and it had to be sanctified by Tri Kapala oblations, which indicated the invocation of Vishnu's favor. Tri Kapala, okay.
Three Kapala.
The great sage Maitreya said to Vidura, my dear Vidura, as soon as King Daksha offered the clarified butter with Yajur mantras in sanctified meditation, Lord Vishnu appeared there in his original form as Narayana. That's nice. Lord Vishnu is all-pervading. Now that means he can be everywhere. Any devotee who, in sanctified meditation, following the regulative principles, chants the required mantras in service and in devotional mood. That's good. Service and devotional mood can see Vishnu. It is said in the Brahma Samhita that a devotee whose eyes are anointed with the ointment of love of God can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead always within his heart. Lord Shyamasundara is so kind to his devotees. So that's a nice statement that it's said in the Brahma Samhita that a devotee whose eyes are anointed with the ointments of love of Godhead, can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead always within his heart. Shyamasundar Lord Shamsundar is so kind to his devotees. Text number 19. Lord Narayan was seated on the shoulder of Shotra or Garuda and had big wings, who had big wings. As soon as the Lord appeared, all directions were illuminated, diminishing the luster of Brahma and the others present. Purport. A description of Narayana is given in the following two slokas. Text 20. His complexion was blackish, his garment yellow like gold, and his helmet as dazzling as the sun. His hair was bluish, the color of black bees, and his face was decorated with earrings. His 8 hands held a conch shell wheel, club, lotus flower, arrow, bow, shield, and sword. And they were decorated with golden ornaments such as bangles and bracelets. His whole body resembled a blossoming tree, beautifully decorated with various kinds of flowers. Wow. That's a description of Narayana. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The face of Lord Vishnu is described in this verse, appears like a lotus flower with bees humming over it. All of the ornaments on the body of Lord Vishnu resemble molten gold of the reddish gold color of the morning sunrise. Usually when bees are buzzing around a person, the person, tries to get rid of them, But here we see it's actually something auspicious when you have bees buzzing around you, humming over it. It says, the face of Lord Vishnu, as described in this verse, appears like a lotus flower with bees humming over it.
Mm.
The Lord appears just as the morning sun rises to protect the whole universal creation. Just like, okay, so wherever the Lord is, it's just like the morning sunrise. It's a very nice statement. His arms display different weapons, and his 8 hands are compared to the 8 petals of a lotus flower. All the weapons mentioned are for the protection of his devotees. That's very nice. Generally, in the 4 hands of Vishnu, there is a wheel, club, conch shell, and lotus flower. These 4 symbols are seen in the 4 hands of Vishnu in different arrangements. Yeah, so you can sometimes the it depends on how the Lord holds the 4 auspicious symbols. So you have 4 arms. So there are many different ways those 4 arms can hold the 4 auspicious implements. So it explains here, the club and the wheel are the Lord's symbols of punishment for the demons and miscreants. And the lotus flower and conch shell are used to bless the devotees. There are always 2 classes of men, the devotees and the demons. as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Parikranaya Sadhanam, the Lord is always ready for the protection of the devotees and annihilation of the demons. There are demons and devotees in this material world, but in the spiritual world, there is no such distinction. In other words, Lord Vishnu is the proprietor of both the material and spiritual worlds. In the material world, almost everyone is of the demoniac nature, but there are also devotees who appear to be in the material world, although they are always situated in the spiritual world. A devotee's position is always transcendental, and he is always protected by Lord Vishnu. Thank God. Thank Lord Vishnu. Text 21. Lord Vishnu looked extraordinarily beautiful because the goddess of fortune and the garland were situated on his chest. His face was beautifully decorated with a smiling attitude, which can captivate the entire world, especially the devotees. Fans of white hair appeared on both sides of the Lord like white swans, and the white canopy overhead looked like the moon. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The smiling face of Lord Vishnu is pleasing, and the whole world, to the whole world, not only devotees, but even non-devotees are attracted by such a smile. This verse nicely describes how the sun, moon, eight-petaled lotus flower, and humming black bees were represented by the fans of hair and the overhead canopy, the moving earrings on both sides of his face, and his blackish hair, all together accompanied by the conch shell, wheel, club, lotus flower, bow, arrow, shield, and sword in his hands. These presented a grand and beautiful audience for Lord Vishnu, which captivated all the demigods there, including Daksha and Lord Brahma. Well, in normal life, if there's a whole bunch of bees buzzing around you, you try to get rid of them, right? But here it's actually a very positive thing. And it doesn't look like these devotees try and get rid of the bees buzzing around them. This is considered to be very auspicious. And so it says here, in the verse, it says that, where is it? Anyway, it says that there are bees buzzing around.
That was the previous.
Yeah, the previous one. Okay.
But two verses before. 21. Sorry, 20.
What?
In the verse 20.
Yeah. All right. So his complexion was blackish. His garments yellow like gold, and his helmet was as dazzling as the sun. His hair was bluish, the color of black bees, and his face was decorated with earrings. His 8 hands held a conch shell, wheel, club, lotus flower, arrow, bow, shield, and sword. And they were decorated with golden ornaments, such as bangles and bracelets. His whole body resembled a blossoming tree, beautifully decorated. So it doesn't say about the bees.
The purport.
Yeah,
The purport, the beginning.
yeah. All of the ornaments on the body of Lord Krishna resemble molten gold of the reddish gold color of the morning sunrise.
Just above that, right, Maharaj?
What?
You're looking for the bees, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just the first line of the purport.
Oh, yeah. The face of Lord Vishnu, as described in this verse, appears like a lotus flower with bees humming over it. Okay. Most people, when the bees are buzzing around them, they try and get rid of them right away. But it's considered very auspicious. Text 22, as soon as Lord Vishnu was visible, all the demigods, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva and the Gandharvas and all present there, immediately offered their respectful obeisances by falling down straight before him. Yeah, it's called dandavats. You fall down like a stick. Purport. It appears that Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Lord, even of Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, and what to speak of the demigods, Gandharvas, and ordinary living entities. It is stated in a prayer, Yam Brahma Varu Nendra Rudra Marutaha. All the demigods worship Lord Vishnu. Similarly, Dhyana Vastita Tadvatena Manasa Pasyanti Yam Yogina. Yogis concentrate their minds on the form of Lord Vishnu. Thus, Lord Vishnu is worshipable by all demigods, all Gandharvas, and even Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam Sadapashyanti Suraya. Vishnu is therefore the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even though Lord Shiva was previously referred to in prayers by Lord Brahma as the Supreme, it's a very important statement. When Lord Vishnu appeared, Shiva also fell prostrated before him to offer respectful obeisances. Well, when anyone tries to argue with you that Lord Shiva is God, not Krishna, you can read this verse and the purport. In the presence of the glaring effulgence of the bodily luster of Narayana, everyone else's luster faded away, and everyone stopped speaking, fearful with awe and veneration. In all present touched their hands and their heads and prepared to offer their prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Adhoksaja. Okay, that's a nice verse. They were all fearful with awe and veneration. Veneration means spiritual respect, and awe means that they're overwhelmed by the presence of Narayana. Translation: although the mental scope of even demigods like Brahma was unable to comprehend the unlimited glories of the Supreme Lord, they were all able to perceive the transcendental form of the Supreme personality of Godhead, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by his grace. Only by such grace could they offer their respectful prayers according to their different capacities. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, is always unlimited, and his glories cannot be completely enumerated by anyone, even by a personality like Lord Brahma. It is said that Ananta, a direct incarnation of the Lord, has unlimited mouths, and with each mouth he has been trying to describe the glories of the Lord for an unlimited span of time. Yet the glories of the Lord remain unlimited, and he therefore never finishes. It is not possible for any ordinary living entity to understand or to glorify the unlimited personality of Godhead. But one can offer prayers or service to the Lord according to one's particular capacity. This capacity is increased by the service spirit. Sevan Mukhe Jivado means that the service of the Lord begins with the tongue. This refers to chanting. By chanting Hare Krishna, one begins the service of the Lord. Another function of the tongue is to taste and accept the Lord's prasada. We have to begin our service to the unlimited with the tongue and become perfect in chanting and accepting the Lord's prasada. Well, that's not difficult. That's easy. You chant and have prasada. To accept the Lord's prasada means to control the entire set of senses. The tongue is considered to be the most uncontrollable sense because it hankers for so many unwholesome eatables. Yeah, yesterday I was hankering to have that chocolate cake, but I didn't take it. Thereby forcing the living entity into the dungeon of material conditional life. As the living entity transmigrates from one form of life to another, he has to eat so many abominable foodstuffs that finally there is no limit. The tongue should be engaged in chanting and in eating the Lord's prasada so that the other senses will be controlled. Chanting is the medicine, and prasada is the diet. There it is. Chanting is the medicine, and prasada is the diet. With these processes, one can begin his service. Well, that's how you begin, but how you maintain also this process of chanting is the medicine, prasada is the diet. It's a very significant statement. Chanting is the medicine, and prasada is the diet. With these processes, one can begin his service. And as the service increases, the Lord reveals more and more to the devotee. But there is no limit to his glories, and there is no limit to engaging oneself in the service of the Lord. It's a very, very profound statement here. Text 25. When Lord Vishnu accepted the oblations, meaning offerings, offered in the sacrifice, Daksha, the Prajapati, meaning the one who produces living entities, began with great pleasure to offer respectful prayers unto him. Well, see, that's what you do when you see exalted devotees, or when you see Lord Vishnu. You offer respectful prayers unto him, unto them. So you got to know the prayers. Well, if you don't know all the different prayers, then you just chant Hare Krishna, and that'll satisfy the great devotees, and obviously also Lord Vishnu. When Lord Vishnu accepted the oblations, meaning the offerings offered in the sacrifice, Daksha the Prajapati began with great pleasure to offer respectful prayers unto him, meaning the Supreme Personality Godhead, Lord Vishnu. The Supreme Personality Godhead is actually the master of all sacrifices and preceptor of the Prajapatis. Preceptor means he's the beginning of all the Prajapatis, and the beginning and the first Prajapati, and he is served even by such personalities as Nanda and Sunanda. Text 26. Daksha addressed the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My dear Lord, you are transcendental to all speculative positions. You see, what is Daksha doing? He's doing something that will please the Lord. He's explaining the transcendental qualities of the Lord. So he begins, my dear Lord, you are transcendental to all speculative positions. You are completely spiritual. See, this is the way you speak to God. You glorify his unlimited qualities and pastimes. You are devoid of all fear, and you're always in control of the material energy. Even though you appear in the material energy, you are situated transcendentally. Excuse me. You are always free from material contamination because you are completely self-sufficient. Now, that's the way to glorify God. We have to be able to recite prayers like this on a regular basis. Yeah. Okay, text 27. The priests addressed the Lord, saying, now the priests are going to glorify the Lord. Oh Lord, transcendental to material contamination by the curse offered by Lord Shiva, by Lord Shiva's men, we have become attached to fruitive activities. Yes, that is a curse. And thus we are now fallen and therefore do not know anything about you. On the contrary, we are now involved in the injunctions of the three departments of the Vedic. One second. Vedic knowledge. Under the plea of executing rituals in the name of yajna, we know that you have made arrangements for distributing the respective shares of the demigods. In other words, the leftovers from the rituals, right? Purport. The Vedas are known as Trigunya Vishaya Vedaha. Bhagavad Gita 2:45. Those who are serious devotees of the Vedas are very much attached to the ritualistic ceremonies mentioned in the Vedas. And therefore, these Vedavadis cannot understand that the ultimate goal of the Vedas is to understand Lord Krishna. There's so many Vedavadis today, and they're saying so many different mantras and doing so many different yagyas. Those who have transcended the qualitative Vedic attractions, however, can understand Krishna, who is never contaminated by the material qualities. Therefore, Lord Vishnu is addressed here as Ananjana, free from material contamination. In Bhagavad Gita 242, the crude Vedic scholars have been deprecated by Krishna as follows. In other words, deprecated means put down, made very lowly, put back in their real position as not really genuine devotees. Yam imam pushpatam vacham pravadanti avipaschitaha vedavada rata partha nanyat astiti radinam. So this Veda Vada Rata, these are people who are reciting the Vedas, but they don't really have love for Krishna. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas. That means they're attached to those statements of the Vedas by which you can get material benefits. And they say that there is nothing more than this. They think that all those material benefits that they can get by saying different mantras, that's the real end of devotional life. But it's not. It's false. So those type of people are called Veda Vada Ratas. They are so-called experts in the Vedas, but it's only for sense gratification. The members of the assembly addressed the Lord. O exclusive shelter for all who are situated in troubled life, in this formidable fort of conditional existence, the time element, like a snake, is always looking for an opportunity to strike. Wow, what a dangerous situation that is. The the time element is compared to a snake, and it's always looking for an opportunity to strike, meaning to kill. This world is full of ditches of so-called distress and happiness, and there are many ferocious animals always ready to attack. The fire of lamentation is always blazing, and the mirage of false happiness is always alluring. This is poetry, but poetry of very high level, describing the very difficult situation that materialistic people are living in. But one has no shelter from them. Thus, foolish persons live in a cycle of birth and death, always overburdened in discharging their so-called duties, and we do not know when they will accept the shelter of your lotus feet. And now this is a very, very, very profound verse. And it's explaining the, let's say, position or very, let's say, dangerous position of most people in the world. Although they are, they have knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they are not following seriously. Persons who are not in Krishna consciousness are living very precarious life, as described in this verse. But all these circumstantial conditions are due to forgetfulness of Krishna. The Krishna consciousness movement is meant to give relief to all these bewildered and distressed persons. Therefore, it is the greatest relief work for all humanity, all human society. And the workers thereof are the greatest well-wishers, for they follow in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya, who is the greatest friend to all living entities. Okay. Text 29. Lord Shiva said, my dear Lord, my mind and consciousness are always fixed on your lotus feet, which, as the source of all benediction and the fulfillment of all desires, are worshipped by all liberated great sages, because your lotus feet are worthy of worship. Now, this is Lord Shiva speaking. He's such an exalted, huh?
Yeah, this is a direct verse we can refer to, that Lord Shiva is always meditating on Lord Vishnu.
Yes. Yeah, this shows that Lord Shiva is a genuine devotee of Lord Narayana. Your lotus feet are worthy of worship. With my mind fixed on your lotus feet, I am no longer disturbed by persons who blaspheme me, claiming that my activities are not purified. I do not mind their accusations, and I excuse them out of compassion, just as you exhibit compassion toward all living entities. Now, this is a beautiful statement here, and it shows the exalted position of Lord Shiva, although many people criticize Lord Shiva. And it just shows that Lord Shiva is an exalted, bona fide devotee of Lord Narayana or Krishna. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Shiva expresses herein his regret at having been angry and having disturbed the sacrificial activities of Daksha. King Daksha had insulted him in many ways, and thus he had become angry and had frustrated the entire sacrificial ceremony. Later, when he was pleased, the yajna performances were reinstated, and therefore he regretted his activities. Now he says that because his mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, Vishnu, he is no longer disturbed by the ordinary critics of his way of life. From this statement by Lord Shiva, it is understood that as long as one is in the material platform, one is affected by three modes of material nature. As soon as one is in Krishna consciousness, however, one is no longer affected by such material activities. So what are the three modes of material nature? Lust, anger, and greed. Three modes. No, it's
Passion, ignorance,
and ignorance, yeah.
goodness.
One should therefore always be fixed in Krishna consciousness, busy in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Goodness, passion, and ignorance, yeah. It is guaranteed that such a devotee will never be affected by the actions and reactions of the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. This fact is also corroborated in the Bhagavad Gita. Anyone who is fixed in the transcendental service of the Lord has surpassed all material qualities and is situated in the status of Brahman realization, in which one is not afflicted by hankering for material objects. Ooh, that's that shows the consciousness of a person. If a person is always hankering, or meaning desiring in a very, let's say, adamant way for material objects, material pleasures, and material, uh, let's say, ownership of things. The recommendation of Srimad Bhagavatam is that one should always be Krishna conscious and should never forget his transcendental relationship with the Lord. This program has to be followed strictly by everyone. From the statement of Lord Shiva, it is understood that he was always in Krishna consciousness, and thus he remained free from material affliction. The only remedy, therefore, is to continue Krishna consciousness rigidly in order to get out of the contamination of the material modes. There it is. We have to be very, very serious about following all the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, Maya will take us away from Krishna and we'll be completely confused. Okay, so this is a very important verse and purport. And it's very, very important statement here where it says, Lord Shiva expresses herein his regret at having been angry and having disturbed the sacrificial activities of Daksha. So this helps us to understand also the activities of Brigamuni. Brigamuni was asked by the demigods to say who was actually the Supreme Personality Godhead, Brahma or Vishnu or Shiva. So Brigamuni was, what did he do? He went to see Lord Brahma, but he did not bow down to him when he went to see him. And Brahma became upset. And then he went to see, I think, Lord Shiva. And when Lord Shiva wanted to hug him, he refused. And he didn't want to be hugged by Lord Shiva. But when he went to see Lord Vishnu, the Lord was laying down, and Lakshmi was massaging his feet, and he jumped on the chest of the Lord. And Lakshmi was horrified when she saw this. But Vishnu did not get angry. And he said, "Oh, my dear Brigamuni, I think my feet, my chest is so hard that I have perhaps injured your very soft feet." He didn't get angry like uh, the other two great personalities, Brahma and Shiva. So this proved. Now he had the proof of uh, Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, which is the most, which one is actually the supreme personality of Godhead. Now he had the proof that it was Vishnu because he was not disturbed at all. And Bhrigu Muni became very, very, let's say, reverent and fell at the Lord of uh, uh, Vishnu and begged forgiveness. Okay, text 30. Sri Bhrigu said, my dear Lord, all living entities beginning from the highest, namely Lord Brahma, down to the ordinary ant, are under the influence of the insurmountable spell of illusory energy. So you're going from Lord Brahma down to the ants. Everyone is bewildered by the illusory energy, Maya. And thus they are ignorant of their constitutional position. What is our constitutional position? We're the eternal servants of the Lord. Everyone believes in the concept of the body. Yeah, so everyone is uh, avoiding serving the Lord. And why? Because they are interested in pleasing their own body and not the body of the Lord. And all are thus submerged in the darkness of illusion. They're actually unable to understand how you live in every living entity as the supersoul, nor can they understand your absolute position. That means no one is equal to or greater than Krishna. But you are the eternal friend and protector of all surrendered souls. Therefore, please be kind toward us and forgive all our offenses. So these are prayers now. And this is the way to approach the Lord. Basically, by explaining the transcendental qualities of the Lord and uh, the activities of the Lord. Bhrigu Muni was conscious of the scandalous behavior, meaning very bad behavior, exhibited by each and every one of them, including Brahma and Lord Shiva, in the sacrificial ceremony of Daksha. By mentioning Brahma, the chief of all living entities within this material world, he wanted to state that everyone, including also Brahma and Shiva, is under the concept of the body and under the spell of material energy. All but Vishnu. Lord Vishnu, or Krishna, is completely transcendental, whereas Brahma and Shiva, they have some taints of materialism. That is the version of Bhrigu. Yeah, Bhrigu Muni was uh, asked by the demigods to determine who was actually the personality of Godhead, Brahma, Shiva, or Vishnu. And Bhrigu Muni came back and said, there's no doubt it's Lord Vishnu. Now, this happened a long time ago, but still today, people think that Lord Shiva is the Supreme Personality of Godhead or Lord Brahma is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although this question was, let's say, tested and proven that Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But still, people are worshiping Brahma or Shiva as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This question was already solved many, many years ago by Brigham Muni, who was asked to determine who was actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Brahma, Shiva, or Vishnu. And he came back after testing the three and he said, there's no doubt it is Lord Vishnu who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As long as one is under the concept of the body as self, it is very difficult to understand the super soul or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Conscious that he was not greater than Brahma, Brigu included himself in the list of offenders, ignorant personalities, or conditioned souls, have no choice but to accept their precarious condition under material nature. That means they're very dangerous and very tenuous position in the material world. Tenuous means at any moment they can fall down. The only remedy is to surrender to Vishnu and always pray to be excused. Well, that's what devotees do. Every day we emphasize our surrender to Lord Krishna and his devotees. One should depend only on the causeless mercy of the Lord for deliverance, and not even slightly on one's own strength. That is the perfect position of a Krishna conscious person. Yeah, he doesn't think, oh, well, I have this asset and that asset, and I'm very powerful, and so many people are worshiping me. No. Everyone should completely surrender to the Lord, to Lord Krishna, and not get puffed up by any benediction that they may have. The Lord is everyone's friend, but he is especially friendly to the surrendered soul. That means the persons who completely surrender themselves to Lord Vishnu or Krishna and engage in his devotional service without any pretension of being equal or greater than the Lord. They're always surrendered to the Lord. The simple process, therefore, I like that simple process, therefore, is that a conditioned soul should remain surrendered to the Lord, and the Lord will give him all protection to keep him out of the clutches of material contamination. Okay, so now let me stop right there, because this last sentence is the takeaway for everyone, that we should never get puffed up or become arrogant or become falsely proud of our strength or knowledge or wealth, and think that we might be equal or greater than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore it says, the simple process. Okay. What is the process? It means the process of surrendering to the Lord and being protected by the mercy of the Lord. The simple process, therefore, is that a conditioned soul should remain surrendered to the Lord, and the Lord will give him all protection to keep him out of the clutches of material contamination. As soon as we get puffed up and think, oh, I can do this, I can do that, I have so much money, everybody is respecting me, and as soon as a person gets puffed up, he forgets his position as the eternal servant of the Lord, and at that point, he's no longer protected by the Lord. Whereas here it says, the simple process, therefore, is that a conditioned soul should remain surrendered to the Lord, And the Lord will give him all protection to keep him out of the clutches of material contamination. That's what we should want, to get all protection by the Lord and not think of ourselves as being more, let's say, get puffed up by false ego and think that we are equal to or greater than the Lord. We are always subordinate. Okay, so I think we'll stop right there. Are there any questions, comments that anyone would like to make? Any questions or comments? Hare Krishna. You see, I have to understand, a long, long time ago, Brigham Muni was asked to determine who was actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Was it Brahma? Was it Vishnu? Or was it Krishna? And Brigham Muni tested, and he came back and said, there's no doubt it's Lord Vishnu. So that question was solved, was resolved, was definitively, proven many years ago by Brigham Muni, and still up to today, people are arguing about it. It just shows you how ignorant people are. And that's why it says, Brigham Muni was conscious of the scandalous behavior exhibited by each and every one of them, including Brahma and Lord Shiva, in the sacrificial ceremony of Daksha. By mentioning Brahma, the chief of all living entities within this material world, he wanted to state that everyone, including also Brahma and Lord Shiva, is under the concept of the body and under the spell of material energy. All but Vishnu. So Brahma and Shiva are somewhat under the spell of material energy, but not Lord Vishnu. So Brigham Muni established this, and but still people are arguing that no, Brahma is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not so many people argue like that for Brahma, but Shiva, they definitely argue that he, and very vehemently, that he is the Supreme Personality of God. But it was all settled by Brigham Muni many years ago, that without any doubt, Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not Shiva and not Brahma. Okay, we'll stop right there. Are there any questions?
Maharaj, one quick question.
Yes.
Maharaj, see, by reading this, the conclusion is we need to pray Krishna directly. That is one message. But at the same time, when we start this the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam of Daksha's history, Daksha also wants to do the yajna without inviting Shiva, directly offering to Narayana. That's what his goal actually. He doesn't want to call Shiva and sideline Shiva and take this yajna. But because of that, so much things happen. Now we also straight away pray Krishna, then Shiva get offended.
No, no, he doesn't get offended. But you shouldn't criticize Shiva. That's what was happening. And that's why Sati committed suicide, because Shiva was not given proper respect. Even Krishna gives Shiva proper respect. But Daksha didn't give Shiva proper respect, and that's why Sati committed suicide. She didn't want to be related at all to Daksha because he was sacrilegious. He did not give any respect to Lord Shiva. And in Brigamuni, he was asked by the demigods to determine uh, who was actually the supreme personality of Godhead. Was it Krishna? Was it Shiva? Or was it Brahma? And he came back after testing them, and he said, there's no doubt it's Lord Vishnu. So all this has been settled in ancient times, who is actually the supreme personality of Godhead. But even today, that question is being still, argued, not by the Vaishnavas, of course, but by other people who are less intelligent, and they think Shiva is the supreme personality of Godhead, or Brahma is. Okay, so there's so many takeaways, but our one takeaway for today is Brigamuni says, everyone believes in the concept of the body. This is from the verse number 30. Everyone believes in the concept of the body, and all are thus submerged, in other words, drowning in the darkness of illusion. They're actually unable to understand how you, meaning Krishna, live in every living entity as the supersoul, nor can they understand your absolute position. But you are the eternal friend and protector of all surrendered souls. Therefore, please be kind toward us and forgive all our offenses. Now, you see, this is a prayer. It's glorifying the position of the Lord, of Lord Krishna. And it's praying to the Lord. And it's explaining the, let's say, sad condition of people, mundane people. So he says, Brigamuni says, my dear Lord, all living entities beginning from the highest, namely Lord Brahma, down to the ordinary ant, are under the influence of the insurmountable spell of illusory energy. And thus they are ignorant of their constitutional position. Everyone believes in the concept of the body, and all are thus submerged in the darkness of illusion. They're actually unable to understand how you live in every living entity as the supersoul, nor can they understand your absolute position. But you are the eternal friend and protector of all surrendered souls. Therefore, please be kind toward us and forgive all our offenses. So Brigamuni is praying for everyone to Lord Krishna to forgive the misunderstanding of everyone and understand that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Okay, well, that is our takeaway. You see, this whole everything about who is the supreme personality of God. This was just settled millions of years ago by Brigamuni. And why are they still arguing about it today? It just shows how ignorant people are. They don't read the Shastras, that's why. They don't read Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, thank you very much, my dear devotees. Please have a good day.
Hey,
Don't be confused about who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and keep this in mind. What are you going to keep in mind? This prayer of Brigamuni. My dear Lord, all living entities, beginning from the highest, namely Lord Brahma, down to the ordinary ant, are under the influence of the insurmountable spell of illusory energy. And thus, they are ignorant of their constitutional position. Our constitutional position is we're always subordinate to the Lord. Everyone believes in the concept of the body, and all are thus submerged in the darkness of illusion. They're actually unable to understand how you live in every living entity as the supersoul, nor can they understand your absolute position. But you are the eternal friend and protector of all surrendered souls. Therefore, please be kind toward us and forgive all our offenses. Now, this is a real prayer. He's not asking for anything material. He's asking for the mercy of the Lord. And he recognizes his position as a surrendered soul, and that Krishna is the eternal friend and protector of all surrendered souls. But he can't be the protector and friend if people don't surrender to him. Hare Krishna. Thank you.